Hey class, Mr.G here because I'm by myself. There's nobody here. Welcome class, Mr.G here. I'm your instructor for this term. We're going over some ceramics, and right now we're talking about part B of my ceramics class, which is a little more advanced than the first part, but don't worry, we're going to walk you guys through it. Class, I'm Mr.G, your instructor for this term. Now, this term we're going over surface design. This is more of the advanced elements for surface design that we're going to be doing. Now, for the A term, most of the focus that I did was elements and principles. So how we're using elements and principles in the design process as a whole. Now, this design process is not just for the two-dimensional space, but we're also doing three-dimensional objects. And this is more for the B section. B section really focuses on the 3D stuff, but we're also going to be dealing with app design and getting into stuff inside of the phone or design theory and how things should be laid out. Up front, I'm designing everything for the virtual student. So most of my students are virtually not in class. I'm cool with that. I want you guys to be safe, take care of yourselves, and that's important. With that said, I want to ensure that all the projects can be done without a lot of fuss. Now, again, art class, we deal with a lot of materials and supplies. And I know everybody's not going to have the monster paper cutter or the mass assortment of inks or other things that we have in class. Because of that, I want to make sure that everybody can get the projects done without any questions whatsoever. So with that said, let's dive into some of those specifics. First off, let's go over a little bit about the grading process and what we're going to be doing before we go into what we're covering this term. All right, so first off, how do I grade? Projects. That's the big thing that we do in here. I'm a production artist. We make a lot of pieces. I make a lot of pieces at the same time. I'm a big proponent of make your own work, sell your work after you make it. That's my mentality. And so I push that on you guys just the same. I'm not like Snape, turn to page 974. I'm not that, so we're making stuff. On this project, you have three major grades that we do. First off is the sketch. So you are going to need a sketchbook of some form or fashion. I personally use a lot of composition notebooks. So if you want to use a composition notebook, perfectly fine. If you want a sketchbook, get one of these bad boys. Nice big. It's like a 12 by 9 size. It's bigger than the composition. I like a little more space when I'm working. These things, few bucks. If you go into like Hobby Lobby or Michael's or Walmart, Walgreens, Target, wherever you pretty much can buy notebooks and paper, they sell it. Maybe even Home Depot. I don't know. I haven't really looked too hard. Before you go into some of those stores, there's an ad in the front that has like a 40% off coupon. If they have that, use it. It's free money. Save yourself some coin. So once you have the sketch done, then we're going into the build phase. So the sketch is one grade, the build phase is another grade. Depending on the project, this does take up more than one grade, but just rule of thumb, 3 grades so that it's easy to process. So how you guys are building the pieces themselves and how you guys are constructing stuff. Now for me, let me tell you up front, when you're building your piece, take lots of pictures. I have my phone on me all the time. I'm using it to take pictures of the work as it's in progress because as we're getting towards the end of the term and we're going over units, one of the things is social media. You're gonna need those pictures later on down the road too. Once you've done your sketch, you've done your build, now we're at the final, the thing is done, it's completed, it's ready to turn in and say, here you go, Mr. G, I've made my project. That's your 3rd grade, okay? So sketch, build, final piece, all done. That's the nutshell of how to think about the projects. Next, we have the art history. Now, art history is the biggest equalizer for my class because students will either pass my class and do just fine, or you will fail miserably, and it's because you didn't do art history. So most of the students who end up failing my classes because they failed to do the art history. So I'm saying it a lot because it's a big section of grade. Now for me, art history is once a week. That's it. I don't cover it more than that. I really kind of just touch base on it and I use it as a jumping off platform, building platform for you guys to get some more ideas for your own work. Now for me, the B section I enjoy more because all my artists are living artists. A section we deal with the dead people. So Da Vinci, Picasso, Raphael, maybe sometimes. We do the whole turtle thing. Raphael, Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Donatello, which is funny because Donatello was not part of the Renaissance. They could have researched it more. That's all I'm saying. I understand, like, it sounds good. Marketing campaign, get that. But Botticelli or Botticelli. No, Botticelli, Caravaggio. You have a couple other options. These guys just... Another topic down the road. For the art history, you have 3 things that you guys are going to cover. For me, I have like a map. Let's put up a map here. That slide you see is the art history. That's it in a nutshell. That's all we do. You have the single image that we look at as our reference point. I tell you the title, the artist, and the period. As I said, A section, we do dead people. B section, I do living artists. I'm online all the time. I look for artists that are living, that are creating works currently, that have a YouTube channel sometimes because I want to watch and see how they made stuff. And that is fun for me, but it also gives you a completely different look into the art world as a whole. Case in point, I had a student who we were doing a project. This was like a couple years back. And I saw Louis Hover, and I'm pretty certain he's out of Australia. I forgot because we haven't talked in a while. But I saw his work and I was like, this would be great to work as do a project on something like this in class, and we can use color and line and do different things that we can use. And I started doing it, had my students do their pieces. I put it in my feed of when I threw up stuff for my classes, and the artist hit me back. He hit me back, and I put on my student, because most of my students are older, and I tagged her in the work, and he hit her up and like, your work is awesome, love it. So to have the artist hit you back and tell you that your work is awesome, that's just good. Warm and tingly inside. So nice. Love doing current artists, love doing real living artists, because it's just more fun to do, which makes the 3 things that we're doing so much simpler. So the first thing that you're doing is the description. You're listing minimum 6 things that you see in the overall image. So you're just creating a simple list of what you see. Next one, interpretation. Why did the artists make the choices they made? What are they saying with this work? Living artists, these guys have blogs, YouTube channels. They're talking about this. There's a press tour. They're going over why they did stuff, which is important for us as artists to know what your inspiration was. Where was it coming from? Why did you have these feelings? And then all you're doing is telling me your opinion as to you're taking that bit of research and you're compiling it and condensing it together, and then telling me a little story of why they made that kind of piece. Because you might find the blog that says, this is why I made this piece. Don't cut and paste, paraphrase, reword it a little bit into your own words, but you get the gist. And last one there is judgment. Now, judgment, you either like the piece or don't like the piece. I have a lot of artwork that I like, and I have a lot of artwork I have really, really strong, I detest some of this stuff. And that's fine. I want to know that opinion. I want to know why you have that opinion. So if you start off with, I like this piece, that's fine. But it should have a comma. And then you tell me a little bit of large chunk of whether you like, why you like or dislike the piece. So like if you see a piece of artwork, let's throw up George Segal. He's not alive. Yeah, he's dead. So you can't see an interview where he's talking about the work. He did do interviews during his life, and his work focuses a lot on the Holocaust, and I appreciate his work. I actually like some of his work, but at the same time I hate some of his work. And it's not because of a dislike for the work, but it's the concept of what the work represents. The Holocaust was such a horrifically awful thing. I will tell you now, I went to DC, this was years ago, it was back in the 90s, and they opened up the Holocaust Memorial Museum, and you walk through that left a scar on me. It was horrifically awful. It is one of the best experiences I've ever had because of how much the history came to life in that exhibit. And it was absolutely horrifically awful. But at the same time, as just an artist and an educator, I'm looking at that thinking that is the most brilliant thing I've ever seen. Mentally and internally myself, it was just absolutely horrifically awful. So I'm conflicted, to say the least. But that's important to state, because it gives a conversation. It creates something for us to have a discussion about, and that's what's important. That's what I want to reiterate to all of my students. So how are you bringing that personality into your own work, that you have these thoughts, these feelings, these ideas? How are you bringing that into your own work? What is that work trying to say? So using other artists as that first jump into the deep end and using that as that build process, it's great. Use that. Help work through somebody else's pain to create some works on your own, or use their inspiration of things that were awesome in their life to make better pieces yourself. It's good stuff. Finally, test. Test is a really weird thing right now because we're in the whole virtual space. I don't like tests in the virtual space in general, just because there's a lot of testing irregularities that could happen. And because of that, things get wonky. For me anyways, I have to do a pre and post test. Some people call it a benchmark. Some people have it as a pre and post test. Some places they call it the student learning objectives. That was a state person who mandated that term. We have acronyms for everything in education. If you're giving somebody a slow test, that's bad. I don't know who came up with that term. But that's a bad 5 minutes. You could have come up with something better. Just 5 more minutes. We're gonna let you think about that one for a minute. Come back to us when you got better answer. But yeah, so these tests, these benchmarks, these assessments where we're assessing how you do on the front end to the back end, how you're doing. That's what the test is for. Legally, the pre-test tells us what you don't know. So if you don't know anything, that's fine. On the pre-test, you get a 0, that's cool. On the post-test, you get 100, you did amazing. But if you got like a 90 on the pre-test, and then you get like a 40 on the post-test, something happened. Go in there with the information of knowing what a pre-test and post-test is. That's the only thing I kind of want to stress to my students, as well as other students that have to do that whole assessment thing. That's what they're testing you on. They want to know how well you did over the course. So if you do bad at the beginning and do awesome at the end, you're fine. We also do a midterm. Midterm for me is usually a additionary project element where we're just adding stuff to the project and use that as a midterm grade. And the reason I do that is because, as I said before, the whole virtual thing and doing a test in the virtual space, to me, is just kind of a weird, it's weird. If I'm in the classroom and we can do it as like a vocabulary kind of thing, it works. And yes, I know I could do that as a midterm test. We got enough going on right now. I'd rather work on the projects instead of worry about one single test, because that one single test is not going to outweigh 4 projects. Just saying, mathematically, it doesn't make any sense. Design class. Let's start going over some of your units and the projects that we're going to be doing this term. All right, surface design. First, term 1, as I said before, we cover elements and principles. So that was the base structure that we did with all of our designs prior. We're dealing with just the elements and principles because you need to have that foundation in the body of work as you're moving forward. Because this is the B class, I don't really cover it again, but there are a number of videos on my channel. Watch those, understand what the elements and principles are. I will touch base on probably a couple times the first couple days, but I do kind of push that on you guys to look that up yourselves. Now for the units, we're first doing color and design theory, then mixed media and 3D, and finally we're going to wrap it up with portfolio design. So let's dive into that color design theory. First thing we got to do is the color wheel and color relationships. How does color relationships work with one another? How does that, why do color relationships work? What is the basis behind these color relationships? And this leads us into the next thing, which is design theory. So 2 colors, if they work together, that's great. If they don't work together, it sticks out like a sore thumb. So you want to make sure that your colors are working together cohesively so it makes a better piece overall. And that's going to show us in the design theory on how we're doing certain layouts. As I said, we're going to get into app design a little bit, and how text and colors and shapes all cohabitate well together to create a nice design. Next thing we're going into there is mixed media and 3D. Now, one of the things I've done a lot that I think is awesome is my collage celebrity. Now, your celebrity you guys can pick. I do want you to do some sort of portraiture in your piece. Now, notice how on mine I did Beast from X-Men. It's not a true celebrity, but I like the MCU. I wanted to do a piece off of that, and I had a lot of blue pictures around. So that kind of placated into what I was working on. But you guys are going to be working on a portrait piece based on a celebrity. So think about who you already like to would like to work on. So get your guys' brains thinking on that. And the next thing there, right now I've got a shadow box design. I did this prior in another class. I like it a lot. It always comes out really well when you have time to do it. It will require a couple special tools, which is an X-Acto blade. And for me, for my project, I use mat board. You can change what. We'll go over the materials when we get to that in class, so don't worry about it right now. But think about kind of designs that have a landscape element to them. Finally is the portfolio project. The portfolio design, we are 100% going over social media. As I've said prior, in the art world in general is about the hustle, how you get your name out there, how you get your stuff out there. You have to self-promote your own stuff. Nobody's going to promote your stuff for you. So how are you getting your own message out there? How are you doing that? I know I am really bad at this, and the amount that I do so much all the time. I'm always posting stuff online, and it's to encourage people to see my work, getting my name out there. And if you're in the art world and you're not doing that hustle to get your name out there, people just don't know it's there. And it's not because your work is bad, it's just no one sees it. That's it. So social media component here, we're going over with how to structure your portfolio to getting that message out there, because that's one of those things that we have to cover in our classes, portfolio elements. One of the things that I think is most beneficial, especially in this current day and time, is the social media acceptability and what you're getting out there. How are you creating your vision? Going over that with you guys. And finally is the independent project. It is solely up to you guys what you guys want to create. I do kind of want it to be in the realm of something in line of what projects we've done, just because that you've got that basis underneath you and what you want to make, but to give you guys free reign in what you make going forward. So be thinking about that. Have some sketches in your sketchbook. Keep trying to formulate new ideas all the time, and that creates a better project and a better portfolio in the end game. Awesome, guys. I hope that gave you a really good overview as to what we're going to be covering this term as a whole. And for my teacher friends, I hope that gave you guys some good guidance on just kind of how I do my stuff. Might give you guys some ideas. If you have some better ideas, by all means, put that down in the comments below. Always like to get feedback from other teacher friends or students. If you guys saw something that you, well, I think this would be better, toss that down there. Always happy to read that kind of stuff. Wrapping up for my class, I look forward to a good term for you guys. If you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to hit me up, either text, email, or this, if it makes it easier for you, whichever is fine with me. Oh, for my teacher friends, Google Voice is great. Nice way to keep yourself anonymous online and having a viable number that people can contact, business or whatnot. It's a good thing, good option to have. I do give out some sort of personal contact for me, which is the Google Voice number. You guys have access to my email, and you have, for me, we use Teams, Microsoft Teams. Have that to have access to get me questions. If you guys have questions on anything that you guys have, that's how you get in touch with me. Wrapping up for my teacher friends and my other classmates that are out in the virtual space of YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all the various platforms. Get the message out there to as many teachers and students and everybody in the art world as you possibly can. Always good to have more classmates there. Don't forget, if you guys had a question, comment, or concern during the video today, don't forget to raise the hands down in the comments below. Happy to answer those questions from those classmates. And as always, I'll see you guys next class. So until then, later, guys.